Well, it is Monday. I hope you're off to a great beginning of the week. So I always like to talk about Mondays, making it double Monday. You try to get as much done on Mondays as you do any other day of the week, and I try to get twice as much done. In fact, I started my day off somewhat unusual with getting my annual physical done. So I got that knocked out early this morning and was glad to get that out of the way. So I'm glad you joined me. We're going to be talking about the execution enigma, and this is actually episode 61. So why do I call this the execution enigma? This is why is because people struggle with executing things, getting things done, accomplishing things. They're busy during the day, a lot of what I call sideways energy, but at the end of the day, did they really get a lot done? So I want to kind of, in some ways, pull back the curtain on what it looks like on a very practical level of what execution is about. Because see, as a leader, that's one of your main jobs or one of your top priorities is execution, getting things done. So I want to walk you through some ideas and thoughts on how you can execute better. And I want to use, really goes back to what my purpose is and my purpose behind these Facebook Lives, and that is to help people to lead themselves well. See, my purpose in life is to encourage and to empower others to live, lead, and finish well. And so I want to talk to you about, through execution, how you lead well, okay? We're going to take the word lead and we're going to use that as an acrostic, and for each of those letters, I'll talk about one of those points, and that helps you to remember it, okay? So again, this is episode 61, and I'm so glad you've joined me again. This is Scotty Sanders. I'm an international leadership consultant, and I love getting to pour into people and help them to reach their potential, help them to lead themselves well. So if you struggle with execution, I'm gonna give you some real practical things that you can do to really improve your ability to execute. So here's the first one, and it's the L, and that is leverage your time well. You got all the time you really need, but we don't leverage our time well. So what do I mean by that? So start out by asking each day, what's important now? And that's what's important now, which is the win of the day, W-I-N. Is how you win every day by asking what's important now. And then from that, you want to think about your top 3 priorities for the day. In fact, I write down every day my top 3 priorities for that day. Today, I wrote down my top 3 priorities. Rarely do I not accomplish my 3 top priorities. It's just almost a foregone conclusion. By the end of the day, I will get these 3 things done. Now, I've asked leaders from all different levels and all different venues, if you will. It could be in the nonprofit or government or education or sports or corporate, Fortune 500 companies. And, I'll ask leaders, hey, what were the 3 most important things, or what did you get done today? And most people have this glazed look come over their face because they're like, I don't know, I was awfully busy today, but they cannot tell me the 3 most important things they accomplished in a day. If you'll just do that, write down your 3 most important things and make sure you do those. That's leveraging your time well. So first, asking what's important now, and for this day, what are my 3 most important things? And third, spend a portion of your day on improving, all right? Study, read, listen to a podcast, join me on Facebook Live. That's one of the ways you can do something simple. I just hired another coach for me to help me in one particular area of my life. Usually every year I'll hire a coach to work with me over a period of time. And so I started a coaching program today. So I was listening to watching some of their videos, reading some of their PDFs, and getting coaching. And I'm scheduled to go to a conference later on in this year with this person to get some additional one-on-one coaching as well. So that's something you do. You leverage your time well. So what's important now, your 3 top priorities, and you work on improving yourself. Because when you're improving yourself, those improvements will lead to better execution, okay? So here's the next letter, which is E for environment, all right? Now, what do I mean by environment is this. You've got to have a healthy, non-toxic environment, or you're going to have a difficult time getting things done because there's a lot of energy, wasted energy, going into dealing with unhealthiness. You know, when there's a toxic culture, and a lot of times when I'm brought in to help organizations, it really comes down to they're not getting things done. But a lot of times the root issues are related to their culture. There's not trust within the organization. If you don't have trust, you've got a problem. You're not going to take chances. People will keep their heads down and not try to get things done. If there's unresolved conflict, that would be an unhealthy culture, a toxic culture. So your environment has to be conducive to be able to execute well. And as part of your environment, clarity is king. It's essential to get things done. If people are unclear, it's hard to execute when they're fuzzy on what's expected of them. Deadlines, budgets, time frames, the why behind what you want to do. So the environment, the leader helps set the environment for execution to go well. And the A is this. So we got L for leverage your time well, E for environment, A for accountability. Every organization, in order for execution of work well, there's got to be a level of accountability. We all need that. And sometimes we'll push back on it, but we really all need some accountability. So part of that would be develop a sustainable cadence. Okay, I talk about living a life that's sustainable. So having a rhythm to your life of having meetings, of following through on emailing, having a sustainable cadence brings about good accountability. It keeps you accountable as well. And that's the main thing in getting things done, is making sure you're accountable. Report on your progress. Who is looking over what you're doing? I've got a board meeting this week, and I've got a board meeting for another nonprofit next week where I'm the executive director. They want to hear what kind of progress. I have to report progress to them. I update them periodically. We look at the financial reports. That's reporting progress. And other organizations I work with, we look at our numbers every week. We look at our financials monthly. Report progress. Make sure you review your top goals. What are the top goals for the organization? What are your top goals? So I've got my 3 top goals, and I write them down every day. Yes, I do. And I review my goals every day. Where am I with my goals? And I'm looking at not only my goals, but I'm making sure I'm paying attention to my lead measures that would move me toward accomplishing my goals. Today, before 10:30 or 11 o'clock, I did several things that was specifically targeted toward one of my major goals for this year. There were the lead measures toward these goals that I did to help me to accomplish my goal. I'm behind on this one particular goal. 2 of my goals, I'm ahead of schedule. 1, I'm way ahead. 1, I'm slightly ahead. 1, I'm way behind. So I spent a lot of time this morning for probably 2.5 hours really focused in on that goal. So goals, review those, and then you always want to be evaluating what's working, what's not working, what went well, what can we do better to improve. So that's the accountability. So the L is for leverage your time well, E is for environment, A is for accountability, and the D is for drive. Now, let me just add this little qualifier. Don't drive people crazy. And sometimes I feel like I can do that. I'm a hard charger. I admit that. But sometimes people lack drive. It's hard to get a lot done, to execute anything when there's not some urgency and some drive behind what you're doing. And drive assumes you are moving. A lot of people, it's like their feet are stuck in concrete. They're never moving. They're staying where they are. Now, there's a lot of activity happening. Their arms are flailing. Their mouth is moving, but they're not moving forward. Drive assumes you're moving forward. Here's a couple points there. Indecisiveness can be dangerous. You got to make decisions. You can't just sit on things forever and ever and ever. A lot of times as a leader, if you're indecisive, you slow down the whole organization. You create this closet, if you will, that all these decisions are waiting on you to make. Of course, my deal is, number one, do I even have to make this decision? Or is there someone else in a better place to make the decision? Hand it to them. Let them make the decision. But for some things, I'm the only one in the organization that can make that decision. So I need to make sure I do it in a timely way. I don't want to delay it unnecessarily. So indecisiveness can be dangerous, and it certainly hinders drive. And then take extreme ownership. That's part of this drive. Man, own it. Don't be lukewarm about it. Really take ownership, take responsibility. Don't let things that are falling apart and you just say, well, that's not my deal, or I don't need to fool with it. Jump in with both feet. Drive. So again, going back over it, the L is for leverage your time well. The E is for environment. A is for accountability, and D is for drive. All right? So that's how you execute better. You want to have execution as something you're known for. Practice, lead. Leverage your time well. Make sure there's a healthy, good environment. Be accountable and drive. Bring energy in what you do. Now, let me give you a few quick execution insights. So in addition to that, let me just say a couple other things. We have enough time to do whatever's important to us. So don't ever make the statement, well, I just didn't have time to do this. You've got all the time you need to do what's important to you. You don't have time to do everything, but you have enough time to do what's important to you. And that's why you go back to asking the question, what's important now? That's what's important, not necessarily what's urgent, but what's important. Here's another one, chunk it down. And what I mean by that, break it down. You don't have to do it all immediately, but when you see some big challenge, you may get overwhelmed. Take it one bite at a time. Chunk it down to manageable size of execution. And then a third one, produce while you perfect. All right? Now listen, I'm not a perfectionist, but I tell you what, I want things done with excellence. But I've worked with a few perfectionists in my life, and sometimes they'll never produce anything because they're waiting for it to become perfect. And nothing we can do will ever be perfect. Just know that. Now, you want it to be excellent. You want it to be quality. So my approach is produce while you perfect, knowing you'll never really make it perfect. You know, Seth Godin talks about you've got to ship things. You know, I've done several books. I've done several online products, training manuals, and resources. And none of them have ever been perfect. Curriculum for certain things. But it was at a good enough level that I could do it. Then I learn from it. I iterate. I make it better. You know, I did one thing that I've been involved in for 11 years. It's called One Focus. I think we're on the version 7.0. And 7.0 is a lot better than 1.0, but we wouldn't be at 7.0 had we not done 1.0, because we learned a lot in every iteration. So learn to iterate. Produce while you perfect. And then number 4, if you want to kick butt, sorry to use that word, but it gets your attention. If you want to learn to kick butt, if you want to kick butt, you have to first lift your foot. That means you got to take action. You know, so if you want to be a kick butt person, you got to take action. You got to be very action oriented. You got to have a bias for taking action. And then here's number 5. I've seen this played out over and over, and that is momentum. To me, is greatly underrated. It just is. When you've got momentum, you've got wind at your back. Seize that. Seize that momentum. It propels you forward. And sometimes when you don't have momentum, things seem to be worse than they really are. So when you've got momentum, you need to push even harder. So that's how I go about executing. And if you'll work on improving execution, what I found, most companies lack execution. And most CEOs of companies are looking for people that have the ability to execute. I promise you, if you'll just follow this simple template of lead, leverage your time well, healthy environment, make sure it's good accountability, and drive, you're on your way to executing at an expert level. Well, listen, I hope this has helped you. I really appreciate you hitting the share button and sending this on to someone else. And I hope you have a great rest of the week. Listen, I went ahead and scheduled my annual physical for next year for another Monday. You know why? I want to make sure I get all the hard things done early in the week. You know, sometimes we delay. I would have been dreading it all week. But but I want to get it done on Monday. So I scheduled my annual physical for next year on a Monday. In fact, they even said, well, we've got a Thursday. No, I want it Monday. What do you have available on a Monday? And I like to do it early in the morning. And that's just how I want to think. I want to do the difficult things early and often to get them out of the way. And we all face some things that we don't enjoy doing. And listen, getting a physical is no big deal compared to so many things other people go through, but it's certainly not fun. I promise you that. Well, listen, I hope you have a great rest of the week. Keep leading well till we get back together next time. Take care.